Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Emma Lindberg, and I'm the Education Director at National Farmers Union. Today, we're going to be hearing from Sequoia Ireland, who is the volunteer recruiter at NCBA CLUSA. She's going to be talking about the Farmer to Farmer program. Thank you, Sequoia.
Thank you, Emma, for that introduction. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So as Emma had stated, yes, I will be talking to you all about the Farmer to Farmer program. I like to look at the Farmer to Farmer program as a way for everyday citizens to become involved in international development. So that is why this presentation is titled Farmer to Farmer, Your Gateway to International Development. So I work for NCBA CLUSA, which is the National Cooperative Business Association, the Cooperative League of the United States of America. And we are the trade association for cooperative businesses in the US, as well as an international development organization. And so for over 100 years, we have been working to advance and protect cooperative enterprises, um, and truth be told, not just here in the US, but actually in a global capacity as well. So we don't just limit our work to cooperatives, even though we are the National Cooperative Business Association, but we also work with associations, producer organizations, women's groups, youth groups, and other forms of collective organizations. Um, but our mission is also to develop, advance, and protect cooperative enterprises. This is a map just portraying some of the work that we are doing on a global scale. We do have a $218 million portfolio of international programs working in over 15 countries, with a rich history of working in areas of food security, agricultural development, working with natural resource management, empowering smallholder farmers, youth and women. And so as you'll see, the current projects are displayed in this dark navy blue, and some of the projects where we've worked previously are shown in kind of this aquamarine color. For our international development program, we currently have 18 projects in 17 countries where we have impacted over 3 million lives since the start of our active projects. We have worked with close to 906,000 women and 350,000 youth. We do like to emphasize working with women and youth, understanding that the youth are our future, especially. And in the fiscal year 2020, there were 2,011 organizations that were either established or supported. And of those established, 471 were new cooperatives. NCBA CLUSA is split into 3 different practice areas. We have our resilient community, where their projects are focused on nutrition-led agriculture, climate-smart agriculture, WASH. We also have our economic opportunity sector, where they work on projects that are pertaining to market linkages, agribusiness and enterprise development, financial services, and the like, as well as strengthening cooperative and producer groups. That is our third sector or our third practice area, where our projects are primarily working with producer groups, co-ops, looking at cooperative governance. The beauty of the Farmer to Farmer program is that it spans across all 3 practice areas, and I'll talk in detail about that on the next couple of slides. NCBA CLUSA's Farmer to Farmer program currently works in Peru, Honduras, and Ecuador. And that we run in 5-year cycles. So from October 2018 to October 2023, we'll be working in these 3 countries, as well as some others. And I'll talk about some of our other projects further on in the presentation, but we focus on improving sustainable practices in the coffee and cacao value chains, as well as strengthening cooperatives, producer organizations, and small agribusiness. And then the third sector where we focus is promoting horticulture and tree crop enterprises. Now, it is important for me to mention that we partner with Engineers Without Borders and the National Peace Corps Association to identify host organizations, develop technical assistance plans, provide logistics, translation services when needed, and travel coverage for skilled expert volunteers. And so some of our projects you may notice are going to have a focus on more engineering related topics like wastewater, how to process the wastewater, or how to assist our host organizations in improving their fermentation process or their cacao drying or coffee roasting. And that we're able to do with the assistance of the Engineers Without Borders assignments. So some of you may be curious, okay, I hear this young woman talking about the Farmer to Farmer program. What is it all about? How does it work? And so we'll go through that in this slide. Initially, starting from the left, what we do is we hire in-country staff in the 3 countries where we're working who identify host organizations that can benefit from the volunteer technical assistance. So our field coordinators and country directors are meeting with various organizations that have either come to us individually, or maybe we were referred, or they were referred, excuse me, and meeting with these organizations to find out what exactly their 3, 5, maybe even 10-year goals are for their organization, and figuring out how can we best serve those host organizations in terms of creating scopes of work where expert volunteers are going to come and work with them for 2 to 4 weeks on these volunteer technical assignments. And so these scopes of work are created. I am in charge of recruiting the volunteers. So I find the volunteers that are qualified or a great fit for these assignments. And then the volunteer assignment actually occurs. At the end of the assignment, the volunteer will write a trip report, which will provide SMART recommendations. I emphasize SMART because I think at this point in our lives, I feel like a lot of us are familiar with SMART, making sure that those recommendations are specific, measurable, achievable, time bound, so that these recommendations are tangible for these host organizations. So the trip report will include those recommendations, as well as any observations that the volunteer may have made while on the assignment. And it doesn't stop there, because at the end, when all of this is submitted and we've reviewed the documentation and everything, our field staff follows up with those host organizations to find out, what recommendations, what SMART recommendations that host organization has been able to implement. And if they have not been able to implement those, finding out why and how can we best support them in achieving those recommendations that were provided. Um, and so there are, let me go to the next slide. There are some changes that have been made under COVID-19 restrictions with our volunteer program. And so typically for volunteer criteria, we're looking for volunteers who would typically be a US citizen or green card holder. They have the technical expertise and experience to support our host organizations or our clients on these 2 to 4 week assignments. Now, what we've done since COVID is we have 2 different types of assignments at the moment. We have a hybrid, also known as a paired remote, where we have 2 volunteers, one who is a US citizen working remotely, who will be partnered with an in-country volunteer expert who would be on the ground, in direct contact with the host organization, following COVID safety guidelines. So making sure that everyone has negative test results for COVID. They're wearing protective equipment, gloves, face shield, masks, all of that. Maintaining social distance, all of that is required for those types of assignments. But then we also have the 100% remote or virtual assignment, which allows US volunteers to still contribute supporting these host organizations just virtually. And so if you are the type of person who, um, is, I guess, enjoys maybe a stretch right now. I think sometimes there's kind of like a Zoom overload, but if you are comfortable with remote work and you have the desire to help support these disadvantaged groups that otherwise would not be able to afford this technical assistance, then I would suggest that give Farmer to Farmer a try in terms of volunteering. We are looking for volunteers who are available to virtually meet with the field staff, host organizations, as well as if it is a hybrid assignment, as well as the other volunteer who you would be working with. We're looking for people who are flexible, able to work through unforeseen circumstances. And I just want to give kudos to the volunteers who had been placed at the beginning of 2019 with the anticipation of actually going on assignments and who have adjusted to the remote settings of the volunteer farmer to farmer assignments. And that is basically that's the type of flexibility that we are looking for. Volunteers who have a willingness to share their technical expertise with community groups. That is definitely important. But then also understanding that the environment in which these groups of people are working in may not be as fancy as you are accustomed to. So having the flexibility to work with people from various backgrounds is definitely key for our stellar volunteers. Interest in cultural exchange, in addition to the technical exchange, I think oftentimes I receive feedback from volunteers and they say, it's not that I went on this assignment with the sole purpose of, oh, I'm going to provide all of this to this particular group. I'm going to train them. They're going to benefit from this so much. But these people also understand that they learn a lot about themselves as well as the communities that they're working with. So it is definitely a cultural exchange as opposed to it being more one-sided. And then also our volunteers are willing to write the final report that includes those Smart Plus recommendations that I had referenced earlier. And for the types of volunteer assignments, they vary. I joke that people hear the name or they see the name Farmer to Farmer and they automatically think, well, it's just for farmers. But I can attest, after having worked on a pig farm, there are so many different aspects to being a farmer that I think a lot of people don't, or a lot of people outside of agriculture don't consider. Um, you need an accountant, and so we have assignments that are great for people who are maybe more so in the finance track as opposed to specifically focusing on maybe crop production or livestock, and animal health science type of assignments. But these host organizations that we work with, they need someone to help them market their cacao. Oh, and I apologize if I didn't say that earlier, but we do work with coffee, cacao, and horticulture. Just wanted to reiterate that if it was unclear earlier. But yeah, we work with host organizations that need help with their marketing, whether it be for their coffee or their cacao, or how to negotiate contracts so that these farmers can do their best to make sure that they are not receiving the short end of the stick when it comes to negotiating contracts with buyers. I think a lot of us can speak to that based on some of the supplier contracts that you know we ourselves have as farmers. Um, Looking at organizational development stuff, cooperative governance, board training. We get quite a few assignments where you have early co-ops who need the guidance um, so that they can thrive within their communities. I actually have one assignment right now with more of an organizational development focus where the co-op wants to be able to provide social services to their members. So with the onset of COVID-19, they've recognized a lot of their members are struggling financially. And so they want to be able to provide scholarships for their members' children to continue to go to school, whether that be their school fees or paying for their books, or even providing healthcare services to their members. And so if you go on our website, which I'll reference a little later, if you go on our website, there's definitely that opportunity if that is your area of expertise. The engineering assignments, as I mentioned earlier, those typically go through Engineers Without Borders. But working on like solar roasters or how to repurpose coffee wastewater. We had an assignment, I think it was last year, and the engineer was able to incorporate the trout. It was a trout farm that was nearby the coffee plantation, so they were able to kind of repurpose or recycle that water so that the trout could grow within that water after getting it cleaned up and everything. And then our flex assignments down here at the bottom. So these vary. These are typically assignments that are going to be outside of either our primary countries that we're working in. So Honduras, um, Peru, and Ecuador. So we have some lined up for El Salvador and Cambodia. So if you're interested in going to any of those countries, definitely stay tuned for the assignments that we'll have coming up in the future. But then they can also be outside of the sector that we're currently working in. So it could be outside of that coffee, cacao, horticulture scope. It could be something such as beekeeping. Or in some cases, we've had flex assignments where it's working with alpaca wool designers. So these are artisans who were creating gloves out of alpaca wool that they were um, spooling or using to create gloves, hats, and stuff like that. So those are some examples of the flex assignments that you may come across on our website. Looking at this list, this is our currently available assignments. So at the moment, if you are viewing this assignment and you are an expert in digital advertising, and you are interested in working with a co-op in Peru, by all means, please visit our website. um, we have the cooperative social service assignment in Peru that I had mentioned earlier, with the co-op who would like to be able to provide healthcare or scholarships for members' children. We also have the biofertilizer and bios expert in Ecuador. We have a cold storage and handling in Cambodia, where this particular processor collects oranges that he would typically sell during high season. But he would like to freeze some of the oranges so that he can later sell them during low season so that he can sell those oranges at a higher price. And so this businessman is looking for someone who has expertise and can provide him with recommendations on the type of cold storage or freezer that he should purchase, as well as vehicles that he should use to transport those oranges so that they can stay cold. I'll also mention that we do have a need for in-country volunteers. And so for those of you who have global contacts with expertise in these various fields, I encourage you to share this information with them so that they too will have the opportunity to apply for these positions, which is something very unique to our program right now, because as far as I know, this is the first time in history where the Farmer to Farmer program has opened up to a larger candidate pool of volunteers, which I think that's an amazing opportunity for a lot of people. So there are definitely benefits to volunteering on the Farmer to Farmer program. You have the opportunity to broaden your cooperative and agricultural knowledge. As I mentioned earlier, with volunteers who have recognized it's not only them, the volunteers, imparting their knowledge, but it's also them gaining information, insight into different ways to handle various situations or grow certain crops and stuff like that. The program or volunteer assignments are all expenses paid. We cover the cost of your flight, your lodging, your in-country transportation, your per diem. All of that is covered by the Farmer to Farmer program. And so what I always tell potential volunteers is essentially, we just need you as an expert to be willing to share or impart your wisdom, your knowledge with these groups of people so that they can improve their lives. The Farmer to Farmer program definitely allows you to leverage your knowledge and skills to serve cooperatives and producer groups. I mean, these are people who, without the volunteer assistance, would not be able to afford this level of technical expertise that they're receiving. You do benefit from the cross-cultural exchange. And for those of you who might be worried about language barriers, no need to worry, because our field staff are bilingual and they do serve as translators during your assignment. And I will mention, every volunteer experience is unique. I served as a volunteer a couple years ago. My experience was definitely different from Matt, the volunteer that's featured here. And so we're just gonna learn a little bit more about Matt's assignment here. Oops.
Marncetra is right on the northeastern coast of Madagascar. Get a lot of rainfall in this area. For me, it's a beautiful area. People are extremely friendly, extremely welcoming, but also very hardworking.
Fotom-pivelomagna zany famboleagna, mamboly vary, jirofo, kafe, mamboly lavany, fô saiky mbola voly nentim-paharazana fô ataoko fa tsy mamokatra firy izy. Vidim-bokatra zegny lasa zay tian'ilay mpividy atao. Ilay tegna nampiezaka zay amin'ny fidirana amin'ny fikambanana igny mbô hialagna amin'ny teritery.
Once the cooperative entered, we really explained a lot of the market activity and the ability of a cooperative or a group of farmers to not only argue a price with commissioners and directly with exporters, but how to get additional benefits.
Ny tombotsoa azonay agnatin'ny coopérative mirarisoa, fondry, afaka mifandiniky, afaka mifanerasera, afaka mifankafantatra. Le fiofanana zegny efa tao, hitanao samba le toe-tsaigny aby aza, efa misy fivoany be.
As a volunteer with NCBA CLUSA, we were able to work very closely with the farmers. We provided multiple trainings to the farmers out in the countryside. Trainings about record keeping, financial management, and a lot of the trainings that we did was how to replicate these trainings amongst the other village members.
Raha olo mpamboly tsotra hiditra amin'ny coopérative mirarisoa, tsy maintsy mitrotro am'le amin'ny membre de bureau isaka fokontany raha hiditra ianao tsy maintsy ambaraziny fepetra iresiny mikasiky le coopérative ary azavaigny aminazy ka hoe dikany agnanaovany le cotisation fiarovan-tegna.
A lot of advantages for our farm. First of all, the continued trainings that they've had through the NCBA CLUSA program. We offer a rice advance in the lean season. We offer a bonus on the purchase of the green vanilla during the green vanilla season.
Ny tegna agnatin'ny programme anahy manana magazin zay amin'igny zegny zay mbo afaka mahandro le vokatra avy zany mampita azy amin'le mpividy. Zay ka tonga aminay zay matoky fô afaka alio tegna tsirairay.
There's a saying here in Madagascar that says "Ireki ireki faskia fa miarakatsika vat." It means one by one we're sand, but with each other we're a stone. I often rely on this saying when I'm doing my trainings because this is the idea of a cooperative.
All right. And so, as I had mentioned earlier, every farmer-to-farmer experience is different. And so this slide just features some photos from my time in Senegal. I initially went on this assignment with the understanding that I would be helping this group of women farmers in the Kaolack region of Senegal work on their companion planting. And what I quickly realized was it was the dry season. And while that information about the companion planting was definitely vital to them, there were some other issues that had come up. And so I was able to report on those in my trip report. So they needed assistance with establishing their compost piles, as well as there was one particular village where the crank essentially for the well had broken. It was a solar powered crank and it had broken. And so that is the type of feedback that maybe the host organization is not willing to initially discuss because it may come off as more of a negative connotation, and they're trying to portray themselves in a great light. But this is something where they needed assistance, and so further assignments were done, including helping them to remediate some of those issues that they were having. Every farmer-to-farmer experience is unique. In the top left photo here, we have a volunteer, Christine, who went on assignment in El Salvador last year. And while her assignment had more of a business or marketing aspect to it, there's still opportunity for you all to meet with these producers, and they're proud to show you their farms. They're proud to show you the areas that they're managing. And so you as a volunteer also learn a lot. And then if we go over here to the far right, this is Matilda, our volunteer, who last year, she had also gone to El Salvador. And in this photo, she's explaining to members of the host organization, IPANM, the importance of using pesticides as the last line of defense in protecting their crops. In the middle photo, we have our volunteer, James Graham. He was conducting a needs assessment with the members of AMIR in Honduras to help them build a stronger association. And then here in the bottom left, we have George, who had gone to El Salvador, working with ACALEM board members on a finance assignment that was helping. And in this particular photo, he's explaining to them, or the board members are explaining to George how they use their current system to track loans. So these are definitely more of the in-person farmer to farmer experiences that you might come across. And then we also have those that are more in tune with what is currently going on in the world with COVID. And so here we have the kind of the virtual, the remote, or actually, sorry, two of these photos are the virtual assignments. So here we have in the bottom left, we have a return volunteer. So you do definitely have the opportunity to volunteer multiple times. So Alston, featured here in the bottom left, she had volunteered last year in El Salvador on the right, working with coffee producers. So you definitely have that opportunity to be a return volunteer. But in the right here, she was meeting with an organization in El Salvador, where she helped them to design a new logo. So this is where some of the flex assignments may come into place. Here on the bottom left, Alston and her coworker Kevin were working with a group of producers in Ecuador to help them improve their catalog, creating a catalog and a logo design that they could use to safely sell the jewelry that that cooperative was selling. And then here we have this is another assignment on the top right with volunteer Paula Harvey, who was helping jewelry designers in Ecuador to create new designs. And then this photo on the top left is volunteer. This was an in-person volunteer assignment in El Salvador, working with Los Pinos, where Peter is listening to members explain what they would like to create from their coffee harvest. And of course, we get reviews. It's not Yelp, but it's the closest we'll get for now. So these are the farmer to farmer reviews that we have received. I typically ask volunteers these questions, not only out of curiosity, but also to figure out how we can best support our volunteers and host organizations moving forward. But when asked, what advice would you offer someone considering volunteer service? Some of the responses that we get are just do it. Go with an open mind, be ready for changes. This particular volunteer said that we stuck to the schedule quite well, but that's not also possible. And that is a reality. Sometimes it rains, roads get washed out, and our top priority is safety for our volunteers. When asked, were your talents and skills used effectively during your term with the organization? This volunteer answered, yes. And one of the reasons is because it kept me busy all the time. That to me is very enjoyable. It challenged my knowledge. So this particular volunteer had gone to Peru on a composting assignment. And, he was telling me how much he appreciated. It wasn't just a one-sided him relaying all these different techniques and methods that the host organization should use, but he was just so excited by the intrigue that the technicians or the member farmers displayed because they wanted more information. They were curious about what would happen if, the temperature, there's a temperature variance and having that equal balance of your browns and greens in the compost. And then when asked, what did you enjoy most about volunteering? This volunteer answered, honestly, certainly during this time, volunteering gives me so much more than it does the hosts. She said, if you have skills and something to offer, why would you hesitate to reach out to someone? So just talking about her desire to share her expertise with volunteers. And you too can do the same. How to get involved? You can sign up on our mailing list to receive alerts about new assignments. And you can email me your information. I'll provide my email address on the next slide. Apply for positions that are a great match. If you go to ncbaclusa.coop, that is NCBA CLUSA, CLUSA, period, co-op, COOP. There's a list of all of our currently available assignments, which you can review and apply. And then also share these assignments, share this information with your network. I say a lot of people know about Peace Corps and the opportunities that Peace Corps can provide. But I think for some of us who may be on the fence about that 2-year commitment and maybe just want to see what it's like to get involved in international development, I think the Farmer to Farmer program is a great opportunity for you to do so with the short-term technical assignments. And then once your assignment is complete, after you've gone on this assignment, definitely make sure to share your experience with your network. And if you would like to get in contact with me, Sequoia Ireland, the Farmer to Farmer volunteer recruiter for NCBA CLUSA, I can be reached at volunteer@ncba.coop. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope that you all have a wonderful year. And I hope to see some of you join the ranks of being a Farmer to Farmer volunteer. Thank you.